G'day. Today I'm going to show you a pretty strange condition that's happening to this WRX. It's really struggling to start when it's cold, and then until it warms up it's a little bit surgy. Checked everything in the system, can't find any apparent problems. So what I think it is feedback from the O2 sensor when the engine's cold, making unnecessary adjustments to the fuel trim. So let me show you what I mean. So you can really see there it's really quite lean on a cold start, and it really struggles to kick over. So I've come up with a little plan. I'm going to make a little oxygen sensor cold start lockout and see if that makes any difference. So what do I mean by an O2 sensor lockout? Well, basically I just mean a bypass or a disconnect. Now oxygen sensors are a little bit funny though. It's not just a matter of simply unplugging them. Especially these 3-wire ones. Why is that? Because they have a heater circuit. Okay? So you can see on this benzo sensor, it has 2 black leads and a blue lead. The blue lead is the sensor signal to the ECU. The 2 blacks are a heater coil inside the oxygen sensor. This is to help heat the sensor up on startup so that it gets readings faster. So if you just plain disconnect it, you're not only not going to get an oxygen sensor reading anytime, but the sensor heater circuit will be open and the ECU will throw a code. So we can't do that. Now we can't just disconnect the sensor feed wire by taking it out of the connector and leaving the heater circuit plugged in, because then it will never see a sensor signal for the ECU, and at some driving conditions it will also throw a code, usually going up hills on a long slow load. So what are we going to do about that? Well, we're going to make a little lockout circuit so that the sensor only gets bypassed when the car's cold, which is when it has issues anyway. So let's get stuck into that now. So first we're going to need the OE wiring diagram. So this is the wiring diagram for a MY99 Subaru WRX. EJ205 turbo. This is the right hand drive. This is a proper wiring diagram for this model. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow the wiring. Now we need to find the wiring diagram for the oxygen sensor. Okay? So here's the oxygen sensor here, right? So there's our signal wire to the ECU. I'm going to make that pink, right? There he goes there. Now you'll see these other 2 wires. These are our heater circuit wires, rightio? So D, if we follow D across the other sheets, here he is here. D is the signal line back to the ECU. Okie dokie. So let's make him purple. So that's how the computer knows if we disconnect the heater circuit or if the oxygen sensor is faulty. Now this other lead that's connected, C, if we trace it back, it's going to feed all these other solenoids on the way. Okay. Now it goes into a 10 to the other page, which is this one here. And we follow it back, and he's going to go all the way up here into our AFR relay or main relay. and then we can follow it also to a data link connector, which is our OBD. Okay, so we can see that that green one is our power feed to these components: pressure exchange solenoid, wastegate control solenoid, and oxygen sensor. So this is the one in question. Okay, so these three wires are the ones we're going to play with. Now to make our lockout circuit. Got one of these. This is a little surface mount thermostatic switch. Okay, you can get these in all different temperatures and operational configurations. Okay, so this one happens to be 70 degrees Celsius, and its configuration is normally closed, so that when it reaches 70 degrees this switch is going to open and cause an open circuit. Pretty cool. We also need a switching relay, or a 5-pin relay, with the 87A pin. 87A pin. Some cable. So I've got single core shielded for the oxygen sensor, signal, and I've just got twin core for the power and ground on the relay. Also obviously need some connectors to make an adapter loom. So I've got an old oxygen sensor. We're going to cut the female plug off. I've got an old water injection bottle off a Bug Eye WRX. Then I'm going to cut the male connector. Alrighty, so let's get to it. Now first of all, I'm going to need a bracket to mount this on. So I've got a strip here of 3mm aluminium. So that's going to be first cab off the rank. Let's get that sorted. Alright, so there's our little bracket. Now we'll screw our thermostatic switch onto it. Screw the mounting bucket down nice and firm. So that's in. I'm just going to mask off the terminals with some tape. Because I'm going to give that little assembly a spray with some matte black while we build the loom, so that's going to make it blend in with the rest of the engine bay. Alright, so let's get our loom ready now. So I'm going to quickly draw you the circuit that we're going to be making. Okay, we have our oxygen sensor. Three wires come out of it. Have our ECU. Two wires go to it. Plus 12 volts ignition. Alrighty, so this is what we're going to make. So we have a wire coming down here, plus 12 volts. We have our sensor feed wire and our heater sensor wire to the ECU. Right, now what we're going to do is we're going to tap into this one. That's going to be a plus 12 volt feed to our relay. We're going to leave this one untouched. Now our feed, O2 feed, or signal, we're going to cut. It's going to come out of there into our relay. Going to have our 12 volt feed there. This is on our coil. Now it's going to earth through our normally closed switch. And what we're going to have here is our points to our relay. Like that. So, the way this is going to work, right, when we turn our ignition on, power is going to feed the relay. Because we have a normally closed switch at 70 degrees is when it opens, so it's normally closed when it's cold. As soon as we turn the key, it's going to pull this relay down. It's going to connect these points here, which we don't have anything to, you notice. As soon as this reaches 70 degrees, this switch is going to open, dropping the power from our relay coil, and it's going to connect our relay points to this way. So we're going to have oxygen sensor signal. As soon as our car cools down again, our switch is going to close. It's going to pull the switch away, and it's going to open our oxygen sensor circuit. Why am I doing it that way? I'm doing it this way because I don't want the power of our relay coil feeding into our oxygen sensor signal. So this way, when our oxygen sensor is connected, there's no power going through the coil of the relay, so we shouldn't get any interference into our feed. Simples. Let's get on with it. So there's our little loom. Cool, hey? I think so. Right, so I'm going to put a little bit of conduit on there, tidy it up a little bit. Just like that, make it all purity. Okay, now these go to the same place, so what I'm going to do is make them a twisted pair. Like that. Alright, so there she is. There's our little adapter loom. Pretty cool, hey? Alright, so let's see about getting it into the car. Alright, so I've got this little bracket here modified a little bit. This plate, there's a couple of slots in it. I'm going to put that underneath the mounting bolt for the power brake vacuum, and then we're going to bolt our relay to that. Just going to slip him up the back like that. Alright, cool, that's going to be brilliant. So I'm going to give that little bracket a bit of a spray paint as well, while we're wiring it up now. She's going to look $1,000,000. Alright, so let's put the terminals on the end of the adapter loom now for the relay. Alright, so here's our wiring. This is the earth fly lead for the temperature switch. This is the adapter loom for the oxygen sensor. And this is our earth lead back to the switch from the relay. So the activation wire actually. Here's our little bracket now. The thermo switch screwed onto it. Looks pretty good. Just needs one little finishing touch. Cool. Let's fit it all and try it out. Alright, so there it is. All wrapped up now and mounted. There's our relay that controls it all. Here's our wiring adapter. Okay. So we can see here that we've got the shielded twisted pair going up to the relay in this conduit, and the power supply to the relay is in its own separate conduit to minimise interference. And then we've got our earth lead running back to our temperature sensor and our bracket, which you'll see here. Goes down there and it's tucked away with the other wiring up through here. See him down in there. See him on the little bracket. Looks pretty good, hey? It's not very obvious that it's been modified. So let's see how she starts now. The car's been sitting overnight now, it's dead cold. Positive start. Oakley dokley. So the car's been driven for a couple of months now with the modification done, and it's going really good. It's a brilliant mod to do. There's no more surging when the car's cold, so it's amazing the difference it makes when there's no rogue sensor signals getting back to the ECU. So yeah, that's it guys. If you're having trouble with your EJ205 surging when it's cold, or even other cars for that matter, there is a way to bypass the oxygen sensor only when the car is cold and still have it work at other times. It hasn't thrown a code, it's going great. So as always, thanks for liking, sharing and subscribing. See you next time on Nev's Garage.